Welcome to another edition of Police Facts. I'm Chief Bob Champagne of the Peabody Police Department, welcoming you to tonight's show. Tonight we're here at the PAT studio welcoming a special guest from the Healthy Peabody Collaborative. We have Sarah and Sandy. We're going to allow Sarah and Sandy to introduce themselves. Sarah, you've been a guest on our show one other time. So why don't we just to refresh our audience with what it is that Healthy Peabody does and who you are and your background. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Great. My name's Sarah Grinnell, and I'm the director of the Healthy Peabody Collaborative. I came on board in August of 2008 as the director of the collaborative. At the time, we were funded for underage alcohol prevention. Since then, we've been able to obtain some funding for overall substance abuse prevention for underage youth in Peabody. We've been very fortunate, as I said, with the 2 grants, and then we've also run a summer foods program as well in the city of Peabody, where we provided free lunch to students during the, during the summer hours. Again, the Healthy Peabody Collaborative was formed in March 2008, as I said last time I was on the show, under Mayor Bonfanti as his response to substance abuse prevention. So, and since then, we've done a lot of exciting things that we're here to talk about today.
Okay. And Sandy, you've been with the program. Why don't you introduce yourself? You've been since the very beginning, since day one also with Sarah. So.
Well, I came about a month after Sarah did. I'm the outreach coordinator for Healthy Peabody Collaborative, and Sarah and I work as a team in all the projects that we do, along with our project assistant, Stephanie Dibble. And that's how I began as a project assistant, just getting my feet wet in this kind of industry, because I didn't know much about substance abuse, or I thought I didn't know much about substance abuse prevention before I started. And once I learned about all the acronyms and how they talk in code, I realized I'm drawn to this kind of work just by being a parent. I have 3 teenagers in the community of Peabody.
So you're a mom here from Peabody.
Yes,
you have kids in the school system and kids that play sports and all kinds of athletics and academics here in Peabody.
I do, and when I started, I had one at every level, elementary, middle, and high school. Now, one's in college and middle school and high school. But like I said, for that reason, I'm drawn to this work. I feel very passionate about it. And my job with Healthy Peabody Collaborative has been to draw on some of my existing relationships I have in the city through all those things like the sports and religious organizations and the school department. And I, in fact, worked for the city in the school's nurse's office at the Higgins for about 10 years before this. So I draw on those relationships, and I've established new relationships, and we're just building community partners as we go along to help us in our endeavors to keep the youth and Peabody community safe and drug-free and happy and healthy.
That's good. So both of you have been really involved in this now for 2 years running, and as you said at the beginning, it started out with a sort of an alcohol awareness and sort of things, underage drinking sort of thing, which is a perennial problem. There's always sort of new folks coming into that sort of thing. But you've been very influential in this Above the Influence campaign, and that's significantly different, sort of a higher up. Maybe you'll talk to us a little bit about what that's all about, and maybe later we'll see. Actually, Peabody had an art contest, and we became a national award winner on that, right?
We did.
So talk to us a little bit about Above the Influence and what that really means.
We were contacted, by saying we, I mean the Healthy Peabody Collaborative was contacted in August of 2010, and we were contacted by somebody from the ONDCP, which is the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the White House. And they selected Peabody as one of 20 communities to bring this national campaign.
20 communities across the nation, so it's a very select group.
It is.
Which means you had to do a wonderful job of emphasizing the things that we were doing and be able to highlight the successes that you had here in the other campaigns.
So we were selected, which is very exciting. And we, they invited us to head to Washington, which Sandy ended up going for us in September, and that's when we brought the national campaign to the local level. Sandy's going to talk a little bit about the different parts of the campaign that we've implemented here in Peabody over the last year.
So you went to Washington, and all of those folks had these great ideas of how the people in Washington were going to come to Peabody and help us.
Right. And my brain was working the whole time I was down there thinking, how are we going to implement this at the local level? And we tapped into some of our existing youth groups around the city, some leadership groups, and we've been very successful with the campaign, localizing the campaign. It started last September, and I see no end in sight. Some of the youth groups that we work with, specifically the Health Advisory Council at the high school, which is a group of student leaders that plan and implement health and wellness activities throughout.
So it's the kids themselves that are involved in this.
Yes,
Good.
and they have adopted the above the influence as a philosophy in all of their undertakings. And the message is simply to stay above the influence, whatever the negative influence is. So there's been, like I said, the campaign has legs in Peabody. We've been very opportunistic. For instance, yesterday there was the opening of the Higgins Spring Art Show, and we had an art contest in the fall, and we displayed the kids' art there. That art, every piece of art I got from, or we got from the Higgins and from the high school, was submitted to the national contest. We ran a local contest here. The kids, the leadership group, selected the winners, and I submitted them all to the national contest, and one of our artists was chosen to represent their art is in the advertisements for the ONDCP, and it's in 68 locations in and around Boston. Sarah and I have been out, searching for them. We've seen them in front of the Salem Hospital right by the Collins
So you have
Middle
something
School.
that's right here, and I know that we're going to try to get some things up on the screen later on as we go through this, but maybe we'll hold it up and sort of get a little bit of a shot here of what we have. This is a smaller version of that art project that was there, correct?
Right.
And folks will notice the symbol with the arrow and representing, I presume, the above the influence of whatever the narcotic, drug, or alcohol, or substance, or whatever it is, or behavior.
Or even behavior, bullying or gossiping or whatever. And this was the artwork that was chosen for the national campaign, and it was done by a 7th grader up at the Higgins, Gabriella Canada. So that's very exciting.
And so Gabriella was the award. Now, where would folks see this? I mean, where would they see? You said you've been out at 68 locations
68
throughout
locations.
Massachusetts or throughout New England?
Throughout the metropolitan area. So
Metropolitan Boston. Okay.
So we've seen them in Revere, Medford, Malden, Everett, Cambridge, Chelsea, Salem, Lynn. We don't have any here in Peabody because they're on bus shelters and metro lights. This is advertisement that the ONDC is paying for, not Healthy Peabody Collaborative.
Okay.
We do plan to give it legs in Peabody, localize it a little more. The ad currently says Boston is above RU. Would like to see that say Peabody is above, and maybe get it in storefronts at art museums, possibly in the mall, and bring it to the Peabody community.
Okay. And so people might see that while they're riding the subway, or they're riding a train into Boston, or riding a bus from place to place?
In fact, just today, an HPC member texted me a picture of one they saw on Congress Street going into a parking garage just this morning. So it's
Boston.
out there in Boston.
And it's our local lady, that 7th grader who won the prize for really rang the bell.
Yep.
So talk to me some more about the symbol that's there, and sort of what that means, and then how that relates to all of the things that you're doing.
Sure. This symbol is an arrow with the circle. The kids really identify that. I don't know if maybe you want to hold this up.
Well, you go ahead. We can.
This is a string bag that was given out at a school-wide assembly in the fall as part of our campaign, and you can see that it's got the above the influence arrow and our Healthy Peabody Collaborative logo, so it's co-branded. The tagline is, "If it makes me less than me, it's not for me." The "it" is capitalized in bold because the "it" can be anything: drugs, alcohol, like we said, bullying, gossiping, violence, any negative behavior. And so the kids really they identify with the arrow. They want to be part of this campaign because of that logo, because the ONDCP has done such a great job at branding that logo. People our age, we don't see the logo because it's not marketed to us, but it's on MTV and local radio stations that the kids listen to. So when we put this out, who wants to be involved, we had an overwhelming response. In fact, one of the activities we did, and one more thing to hold up, was part of this. This happened on a non-school day. So 50 kids came out, and in large in part because of that logo, and they want to be associated with this good work, came out and they tagged influences around the city of Peabody, negative and positive, just to build their influence literacy to,
I'll hold it for
yep,
you.
just let them realize that there are things out there.
And these
That-
are all local kids in
these are-
this book.
Those are all
These
local
are, and they
kids.
all took the pictures themselves, and they all came out and volunteered for this project to sort of
Right.
talk to their own peers about the importance of this message.
Right.
This first picture here is actually all of the youth that participated in the campaign in front of City Hall. They got into the symbol of the Above the Influence with all their shirts on, and they held up their favorite tags, which is what they were doing during this event.
Pretty good stuff, huh?
It was
Pretty
really a
innovative.
very
They came on
fun
a
day.
Day
and
off from school. It was pretty impressive.
So talk to me now, I mean, obviously this campaign is going to continue, right? This is
Yes.
just this is the launch, so to speak, of a much larger sort of thing that's going to continue for what, the course of, at least the course of this grant, which is going to be what, 2 or 3 years?
Yep, 3 more years.
3 more
Yep.
years, and there are going to be some follow-alongs to this. So hopefully that we'll be able to get a larger audience and pass this along.
We've been able to really incorporate the Above the Influence campaign into everything that the Healthy PBD Collaborative does. For instance, Senior Health Day is another initiative of the mayor that started a number of years ago, and it's for seniors in high school, and it's right before they head off to college. They have a whole Senior Health Day in which they're prepared to go on to their different universities or the workplace or whatever it may be. And during that event, we presented back our youth health survey data, which is the youth survey that we do throughout the PBD Public Schools, K through 12. So during that event where we were presenting the data back to the youth, we were able to use some of the Above the Influence artwork as answer sheets. So just incorporating it into events like that, we also gave away some of the cinch sacks that Sandy was holding up earlier to the youth so that the branding was around the community of Peabody, and also sunglasses, which some of you may have seen out and about.
Yeah.
Sandy's seen them everywhere, being at
have.
different sporting events and whatnot.
Just last night, I saw it at the track banquet. Kids still wearing the glasses. I've seen softball players in Peabody wearing them, and they're great. The kids pick them. That's a big part of this, is to involve the youth in the process, because Sarah and I and Stephanie, we might think we know what's cool with teenagers, but we really don't, and we don't even fool ourselves that we do. So the teens or the youth are involved in everything we do, so that when we're picking promotional items, let them pick it, because they know what they like.
So, again, with this sort of Senior Health Day, talk to me a little bit about, you're presenting, you said, and I don't want to gloss over this, because this whole idea of presenting the data back from the youth of Peabody is the aggregate collective wisdom of all of the students there, that they truthfully answered questions anonymously, right? And it's telling them what they said about themselves and their peers. And it's the first time they hear this.
It is. It's actually always been a dream of mine. I've done this work in other communities before, is to present, you give the kids the survey that's 100 or so questions, and then they never hear the results. And that never sat well with me, because I feel like as adults, you always know the outcome of a survey you take, or you vote in an election and you know what the outcome is, but we're not giving that same courtesy to the youth. And I think knowledge is power at the same time, and luckily we had some school committee members that agreed with that. So they said, we'd really like to see this data presented back to the youth in an interactive fashion. So we brought it back to the Health Advisory Council. It was spring of 2010, and said, we've been asked to present the data back to the youth. This is a great opportunity. How should we do it? And the youth came up with the idea of doing a game show called Believe It or Not. So it was pretty, they broke up into 4 groups in each classroom, and they were asked questions, and they, each group presented an answer. We gave them candy along the way,
Yep.
like little starbursts, just to keep the conversation going.
Keep their activity level up.
Yep.
And I don't even think we needed it. The groups were very interactive. They were very engaged. There was a lot of thoughtful conversation going on. We asked questions about, how many youth in PBD do you think are choosing not to drink alcohol? Because that's another initiative of the Healthy PBD Collaborative, is that we're focusing on the positive. You're living above influences. We're not looking at the negative. 59% of youth in PBD choose not to drink alcohol. That means more than half of the kids are choosing to never drink alcohol. and
Pretty
that's
interesting
powerful.
information, isn't it?
It really is. And you ask the kids, who do you think's drinking, and they tell you everybody is. And a lot of times we have the conversation, and this is some of what happened during Senior Health Day, of kids don't come in after a weekend and say, you know, I played board games with my friends, or we played Halo or whatever it was on Saturday night, or we went out and danced all night. You hear a few kids that are talking about maybe the negative things they were doing. So we're really trying to push that positive messaging. So during Senior Health Day, it was great to rep in the Above the Influence campaign, because it really went with that positive messaging that we've been working to consistently present to the young people.
So how was it received?
Well, we did an evaluation, and in order for the kids to get those coveted sunglasses, they had to fill out an evaluation. So we heard from every single student, and it was a simple 4-question, you know, did you learn anything from this? Were you surprised by the data? There's a spot for comments. The comments are very enjoyable to read. You would think there would be more jokesters in the group, but there really aren't, you know, very thoughtful replies. One thing I wanted to mention is we did do this with the seniors, but we also did this with the freshmen through the health class, and we're always looking for ways to bring it back to the youth. So we're hoping to get to the middle school through the health classes and do this same kind of a game show using Higgins specific data. And so it's a powerful message, because it's a teen-to-teen message. It's peers talking to their peers, telling them what's what.
So rather than this sort of, not necessarily negative stereotype,
Right.
but at least the sort of popular thought
Yes.
amongst teens and perhaps adults, because it sort of gets passed on to us so we believe that's there. Sometimes the truth is contrary to what we believe.
Right.
And the truth from the mouths of the youth of Peabody is that there are way more of us that don't exhibit that behavior than those that do.
Right.
Pretty powerful, reinforcing statement for people to sort of model their own behavior on.
Right.
Like the next leg of the Above the Influence campaign, as Sandy mentioned, it is specifically targeted to youth. We want to develop a complementary parent campaign to educate the parents on the other end. There's a lot of those same misconceptions. We did some surveys back 2 years
You mean
ago.
everybody isn't doing it?
No, everybody isn't doing it, and all the parents aren't letting them do it either. So
Right.
when your kids tell you, you know, so-and-so, everyone else can stay out till midnight, maybe isn't true.
And everybody else's parents let them stay out till midnight, and the answer is that
Yeah.
parents sort of just hear that, but it's really not true.
Right.
We did a survey in which most parents, the overwhelming majority of parents, said that they do not allow underage drinking in their home. However, about 2/3 of the respondents said that they believe other parents are letting underage drinking happen.
So
in their home.
perception and reality are again different.
Again, different. So we're going to be working on a complementary campaign over the next year to start to work on those misconceptions as well.
So that's really marvelous work that you're doing here, and you're telling the truth and finding out the truth from people that are actually willing to share their information with you confidentially.
The community's been incredibly supportive. I mean, and we're very fortunate. It's, you know, you're not always so lucky when you do this type of work, but people are really open to the message and the concept and hearing it and allowing us to come into different venues. We've done some programming through the Boys and Girls Club. You know, also we've run 2 programs now at PAT, so they've been incredibly open to the messaging as well. We'll be running another one this summer around the Above the Influence campaign that's co-sponsored by the Parks and Rec Department, PAT, and the Healthy People.
So let's talk. While we're here, we got a couple of things that we're here, and we're here today with the good wishes of PAT, the Public Access, PBD Access Television here, and they've been a great partner with Healthy Peabody. What is it? You're going to have a summer education program here, right here in this very studio and in this very building, correct?
Right. In
And
fact,
so tell us about what we're going to do, because there might be some folks out there that are really interested in participating in that.
well, we are really excited about it, because I consider it alternative programming. It's not for everybody, but there's things that are for the masses that, you know, some kids aren't drawn to. Not everybody wants to play soccer after school, you know. And so we actually had PYTV, Peabody Youth Television, which is something we co-sponsored with PYTV and the rec department over the winter and spring, and it was very well received, and they had a nice group of kids that developed some PSAs. They did all different topics, not just substance use. In fact, I was interviewed on that. I felt very privileged. And that is spinning into summer programming, because there is a call for it. The kids are really interested in learning about filming and editing and announcing and all the things that go with this business. So we're going to have a summer camp co-sponsored by PATV and Healthy PBD Collaborative and the Rec Department. And it is going to focus around above the influence. We'll be getting positive messaging out through there. I mean, I guess we're in the planning stages of exactly what the curriculum's going to be for that week, but it's something to look for in the Rec Department brochure for the summer.
And it's going to be based around the Above the Influence campaign. So we're going to be adapting some of the activities we've done with the photographing around the influences, both positive and negative, that the youth encounter on a daily basis, and then also filming PSAs, that type of thing. So it should be...
Not not because you're just from Peabody, but it seems to me that you have really a great partner here at PAT, at the television, but with the rec department, who really, we sing their praises all the time at the police department about the wonderful work that they do and the outreach that they do and the innovation that's here. But you have now yet another leg to that, to get another group of youth there. Just sort of really some fantastic stuff. More stuff that you're doing. You folks are out now doing, we talked a little bit at one show, a separate show actually, about sort of prescription drug take-back disposal. What do we do with all of these sort of drugs that, the doctor gave me this medication, and he gave me 25 pills, and after 5 I felt great, and so I put them in my medicine cabinet, and they're stacked up from the time that I was 11 and I'm now 35.
Yeah.
Talk to us about a little bit what we do with that.
So talking about great community partners that we have here in Peabody, we work a lot with both the health and police departments for the city, and then also Leahy Clinic of North Shore. And what we're going to be working on is we've held now 3 prescription disposal days. We held one last May, September, and then most recently in April, in which we collected unused medications. So rather than having these one-time events in which people have to have these in this cabinet until we offer this event, we're going to be having ongoing collection that'll be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year in the front lobby of the Peabody Police Station. So we will have both prescription disposal and then also sharps disposal. There's also a sharps disposal kiosk that many people are probably familiar with at City Hall downstairs by the health department.
And sharps, as we're referring to sharps here, is needles.
Needles, yes.
That are out there, and that's many of which, by the way, are used clinically by people who have diabetes or some other sorts of things, and then once they're used, they need to be disposed of because they're one-time use things, and we don't quite know what to do with that. And item number 2, Massachusetts has changed and passed a law that made legal the possession of those things, so that there's been a number of sales that have gone up, and people don't quite know what to do with those.
Exactly.
And that's going to be available at the police station.
At the police station.
And we're actually going to be doing a ribbon cutting with the mayor and within a week or so, right?
Yep.
To do that and to put those things out there. And that'll be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then, but tell us again now, so we're there with the sharps disposal, but this prescription drug thing, which I think is, we're going to partner again with another group of people, not only Healthy Peabody, but we're also dealing with some folks the elderly, right? And we're going to have a take back there.
The Triad Council.
The Triad Council,
Yes.
go ahead.
Where our goal is hopefully starting in the fall, we'll have ongoing collection at the Triad Council meetings. What we know from data that's collected across the state is oftentimes elderly people will have a number of prescriptions, and those are sometimes accessed by maybe an outside caregiver, sometimes a family member unlawfully, and then they're abused. So
Right.
we want to provide them, they may not have transportation, they may not be able to get to the police station. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to properly dispose of their medication. So we're going to be doing some ongoing collection through the Triad meetings, and we're hoping to launch that in fall of 2011.
And so part of this collection process is twofold, I suspect. Number one, you want to keep the legal use and the prescription correct medical use of these things in the correct stream, and deter at least the idea of improper use or unauthorized use. But normally what people would do, if I have this prescription, I've had it, the date says it expired in 2010, what do I do with it?
Environmentally, it's been proven that flushing them is not the answer. You don't want to be throwing them in landfills. The proper way to dispose of them is through incineration. And that's what will be happening to the prescriptions that are put into the kiosk that's at the Peabody Police Department and what's collected through the Triad. So we're really asking people not to do that. So if you're asking people not to do that, then you need to provide them with a proper way to dispose of them.
And so what we'll do is we'll take those things, we'll weigh them up, we'll inventory the things that are there, and we'll take them so that they're lawfully disposed with, by the way, with plenty of evidence of folks that are down there, that there'll be destruction by fire with witness people at an proper incineration plant.
And that is the DEA's recommendation for disposal of prescription medications at this time.
And in addition to that, that's sort of the overview comes, the federal system sort of looks at doing that the proper way, that way also, disposing those from the Office of National Drug Control Policy
Yep.
and the Drug Enforcement Administration, who frankly was our partner in the first time that we did this.
Yep, we've actually held 2 collection days with the DEA, so they've been a great partner, and also just helping us with getting the approval to do so locally. You have to go through, you can't just all of a sudden start collecting prescription medications.
As we thought.
Yes, as we thought.
It's so easy to do good things sometimes that sometimes the bureaucracy